Hi, I'm Brian, and I've just gotten back from my local cinema where I was lucky enough to see Pink Floyd live at Pompeii, the restored version. And I have to say that the sound and the vision are absolutely chef's kiss. I mean, it is hard to believe that this film came out over 50 years ago and was performed over 50 years ago. In 1971, the went to Pompeii with director Adrian Maben, and they filmed some songs there, filmed them walking around the area with the lava flowing and the mud pots. It was absolutely sensational. And then they went into Paris to record some of the other songs. And that's sort of disguised because you think these are just songs that are performed at night in Pompeii. But pretty quickly you work out the artifice. But I say, who cares? Give me more of it. And apparently there were continuity issues with Rick having been clean shaven, and so they couldn't show him during these couple of songs, which seemingly were recorded at night. But I say, who cares? Give me the clean shaven Rick and just let me enjoy these songs in full. Anyway, it was performed in Pompeii, of course, without an audience there. And it was really interesting because movies at the time like Woodstock and Gimme Shelter often focused a lot on the audience, but this makes it feel very close, like it's an audience, like it's a performance just for you. And I really dig it. And as I was watching it this afternoon, I kept looking at that overgrown, where the weeds and the grasses were overgrowing the seats of Pompeii. And I was thinking, now how many people could you get in there? And it was, quite stunning to think you get transported back to the place itself. Anyway, the sound is absolutely superb. It's been remixed by Stephen Wilson, who we all know, of course, and it's crisp, it's clear, and absolutely beautiful. I noticed the bass for me, I think, has come up a little bit in the mix, which is nice and cool because it's actually made me appreciate Roger's bass playing, his visceral bass playing, even more. Now, the restoration, the color of the visuals, the color is so vivid. I mean, to start off with, I remember looking at the bass heads on Nick's drums and seeing the colors just pop out of it, and the color of the butterfly on his t-shirt. And every time the camera tracks past the amplifiers, those WEM amplifiers, you get to see sort of the colors bristling off the black skins there. Absolutely superb. Of course, the tracking is a key feature of Adrian Maben's direction in this, but we also get those wonderful superimposition of scenes where you have the band superimposed over footage in the background, which is great. It's like they're being filmed in front of a green screen, and it adds that extra psychedelic component to it. So great job there. And of course, I love the split screens when, particularly it goes into like 16 different screens on the main screen, or 9 screens. Absolutely incredible. So the movie starts off in complete darkness, and we're left with a black screen, obviously, and the sound of a heartbeat. And that was sort of, we had the situation in the cinema where people were eating their popcorn and their lollies, and it was almost like watching with a badly scratched record at the start, but soon they shut up, which was great. And then it opens, and we've got synthesizers, some really interesting synth sounds happening. And then we start with that iconic shot from the top of the amphitheater, looking down on the band. We're fully bumped in now, and Echoes has begun. And as we start to slowly zoom in on the band, they begin the song, and it starts to take off really wonderfully well. Finally, we get into some close-up shots of David and Rick, and they're singing those iconic lyrics and harmonies and vocals together. Overhead, the albatross lies motionless upon the air. And it made me think at this point how invaluable Rick's harmonies were to the band. The way that his and David's voices work together are incredibly beautiful. Then we move into that funky section, the do 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 do, and there's Roger on muscle bass, and he's got that visceral quality, as I said before. That muscle bass is coming out there, and then David just takes it to the next level on the black Stratocaster with those incredible double stops that just lift us and lift us and lift us, all of course on the back pickup. And that's when the screen splits into 16 different black Stratocasters. Really cool. And I love during the performance when Adrian Maben's doing that tracking behind the speaker cabinets. Wonderful. So that's a great start. And then Echoes, of course, cuts off at that point. And this has been the eternal question. Do you like that it's split into two parts, one at the beginning, one at the end of the film, or would you like to hear it together? Well, we're going to be able to hear it together when the vinyl's released. I don't know if it's come out in Australia yet, but I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a copy. But I do think it works brilliantly in this film. It's something really perfectly placed to end the film. And it's sort of, as it breaks down into those squirrely seagull or seal sounds, I think it's kind of cool at that point. From there, we move into Careful with That Axe Eugene. We have that octave bass being played and the seal sounds coming out of Roger's mouth. And we've got that Eastern motif on the Farfisa keyboard, which is really cool. And the music just builds and swells. And as it does, we come up to this monumental moment where Roger just lets out that scream. And it's the look on his face and the power behind that scream in close up is just unbelievably demonic and scary and eerie and all those sorts of things. And at that moment, I was thinking, don't argue with Roger. Any man who's capable of a demon scream like that is somebody you've got to be pretty careful of. And then we have the lava erupting and fire burning across the screen as we transition onwards. Absolutely wonderful. Moving on next, we go to Saucer Full of Secrets. And this song is an interesting one for me. Of course, it's off the album of the same name. But I don't know how much I've always enjoyed this song because of the chaos early on and then the breakaway to David singing the ah, etc. But I love seeing it when it's done in performance. And I love the section where you see David, who sits down to get right into the groove, and he's attacking his guitar, his wang bar with his slide, and he's really cooking up an unholy mess. Now, guitarists, haven't we all done that in the past? Rick's playing with his palms and his forearms on the piano and just absolutely smashing it. Roger's smashing on cymbals, and Nick is just creating that rolling drum feel over his toms and snares. Really killer. And then Roger, with purpose, approaches the gong, and he sizes it up as though he's seizing the moment as to when to hit it. And then finally, in silhouette, beautifully backlit against the sun, I think that makes sense, he starts to smash it. And my God, he pounds it. He's like a boxer. He's going in for the heavyweight blow. And I'm thinking right at that moment, I'm thinking, don't argue with Roger. Any man who's going to hit a gong like that is somebody I want to stay out of the way from. Anyway, it's really cool. And then I love Rick's calming chord pattern to bring us into the second section of the song. And this is a moment where you see that it was taken from different performances. When David starts singing, he's got that iconic hair all over his face, and then it cuts away to a mid shot and we see that he doesn't have it there. But who cares? I don't care. I just want the song, and the performance is great. So then one of the real treats of this film, as we all know, is we're going into Abbey Road Studios, and we get to see Rick playing on Us and Them. And once again, the tracking around the studio is superb, and it really highlights the beauty of and the temperate nature, the restraining nature of Rick when he's playing the piano, and everything he adds is absolutely perfect for the sound. And this is a band that would only play notes if they were serving the song and serving the sound. Rick does it all the way through. Likewise with Nick, absolutely superb. So it's really cool to see them recording Dark Side of the Moon in the studio. And I've got a bit of a dark side of the face going on because I'm not used to lighting at night. Anyway, we learn lots of things here. We learn that Nick really loves his milk and doesn't want his pie with a crust. It's interesting to see David and Roger sitting together at the table, and then you have Nick and Rick sitting together as well. And David makes the claim that despite everything, we're not a drug-orientated group. I don't know. I think we maybe should have a look at some of these guys' eyes again. But still, I love the sequence where you hear it seeing Roger working on the Run, and he's got that EMS synth that he's working on. Really cool. Then we go on to One of These Days, and there's a huge focus on Nick throughout this piece. And I think that's one of the times where they're trying to avoid continuity errors because of Rick's clean-shaven face. But there's plenty of people who know so much more about Pink Floyd. You might be able to put it down in the comments if you know exactly what's going on. I love that Nick's having a great time on the drums. He's really fanging it, going for it. And at one point, a big smile comes over his face. And at that point, the drumstick goes flying, and you know, what a time for it to happen. And then he pulls it out and keeps going. We've got the synths being played behind that, and the "One of these days I'm going to cut you into little pieces." Sounds like it came out of the studio, if you ask me. But it is an absolutely amazing song, of course. Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun is up next. And once again, in terms of the video and the visual that we're seeing, this one is primarily all about Nick once the band starts to get into the groove with that Eastern psychedelic motif. You know, they can claim they're not a psychedelic band until the pigs come home, but this is a very psychedelic song, and we get Roger on vocals here. It's wonderful. But we've got that continuity issue again where we don't get to see Richard. I would have just had the whole thing. It was absolutely beautiful. And we do get to see some moments where he's clean shaven and he's playing these beautiful echoed keyboard notes. And along with David's slide guitar, the two of these combine to create something which reminds me a lot of the ending of the Rolling Stones' 2000 Light Years from Home. It's a real high moment for me, and I really enjoyed that a lot. Then we head back into Abbey Road Studios for a bit of Brain Damage, and we get a sense of David's process, but also that gnarly tone he gets on the guitar. And by the way, what is the guitar he's playing? I was looking at it all the way through that scene in the movie, and I thought, it's not jumping out to me as what make and model it is. Please write it down in the comments if you can let us know. But once again, it's just beautiful seeing him work on that line. Next up, we come to the song that we had to have, or the dog that we had to have in Mademoiselle Knobs. And this echoes, if you'll excuse the pun, the use of Seamus on Meddle. And I don't know why we had to have that song there, and I don't know why we had to have this song here, but apparently the guys wanted to do it, so it was done. We get the dog in the studio, and let's see how we go. And all I can think of is I hope that dog got well paid. And I wonder why they wanted to do it. Was it because they wanted to just add some levity to the proceedings before we finished off with Echoes Part 2? Or was it because they were making a point that anyone can play the blues or any dog can sing the blues, and what they're doing was significantly more interesting and more important? I don't know, got no idea. But anyway, thankfully it's rather short. It does allow David to show off his harmonica skills, and definitely Rick to show off his dog handling skills. So I hope that dog was well rewarded for the performance. Then we go back into Echoes Part 2, and we've got all of that volcanic lava gurgling around and belching, and the mud pots, and it's a beautiful situation. In fact, some of the footage that is shot is absolutely superb. There was one moment where I seemed to be looking through a corridor, a street alleyway in Pompeii, and there were clouds, or was it mist everywhere? And I was thinking, all we need now is a huge pig to start flying through the sky, and we'll be there. Anyway, and of course, there's those beautiful moments of superimposition where the band is playing, and there's the frescoes and the mosaics behind them, which look so good and add to that psychedelic idea, the psychedelic portion of it. But anyway, we get into Echoes Part 2, and it's a welcome friend. And again, that argument of Part 1 and Part 2 being split. I mean, I suppose they did the same thing with Shine On You Crazy Diamond off Wish You Were Here. Anyway, one thing I didn't know before was that Roger played the iconic note on the piano because Rick's playing on the farfisa. We move into when Roger comes back onto bass, and the bass is right up here, and I think we lose, or David's lead guitar just gets a little bit lost in the mix, but that would be my only complaint, and I can't remember the original, so that's maybe the way it's always been. The ending of this piece is absolutely superb, the way the camera now starts to zoom out from the performance, and we get that idea. The camera work is, we get the idea that we're zooming out of our private audience with Pink Floyd, and we're going to go home. What a beautiful thing it is, indeed, to have had an audience with Pink Floyd. The last time I saw Pink Floyd live at Pompeii was in about 1981 or 82, and it was in a crummy, rundown cinema in the middle of Sydney, and I went with a friend, and we saw a double bill of Yes songs and Pink Floyd at Pompeii. And on that day, Pink Floyd just blew Yes away. Well, the movie blew Yes's film away. And that's exactly how I feel tonight, is that this afternoon I was just blown away by Pink Floyd live at Pompeii again. So in terms of recommending it, get your ticket, get out there and see it because it is absolutely spectacular. But a couple of other things that were brought up in the film, they didn't sidestep the idea, well, this is obviously from 1971, 72, they didn't sidestep the idea that there was argumentation and opposition to ideas and people within the band. Nick and Roger are pretty upfront about this, and David just has that glint in his eye and the smile and says, and sort of refers to things being a little bit better left unsaid. And they also talk about technology and the machines and who's controlling them. Are they in control of the machines, or is the machine, the metaphorical monkey on their back, controlling them? And it was interesting to hear at this point that David's suggested an experiment, or talked about an experiment where you could get four non-musicians together with a bunch of machines and pit them up against Pink Floyd and see which one would come out on top. And David was very confident with that glint in the eye and the smile on the face. Anyway, it gave me so much pleasure to see this movie again. Well done to Adrian Maben in the first place. Well done to Steven Wilson, and well done to Pink Floyd for getting it out at last. Thank you so much. And remember, if music of any size, shape, style, or substance gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? If you're still with me at this point, I really hope that you'd go down and hit that like button, and maybe even think about subscribing, because I know you want to. Anyway, if you're a first-time visitor to this channel, there's lots of other great videos to look at. And until next time, I hope to see you. Until next time, I hope you're doing really well, staying cool, and bye now.